Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Cook. I'm a writer and a bookseller with Porter Square Books in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And welcome to the Cabinet of Curiosities that is my living room. Since it's Halloween season, I am going to read to you a horror story that I wrote that appeared in Tiny Nightmares. Tiny Nightmares. This is a collection of very short flash and short stories that will terrify you, unnerve you, creep you out, keep you up at night. It's a wonderful collection. It's a beautifully designed book. It also has an index, which an index for a horror anthology is essentially a short horror story as well. And before I read to you my selection, my story in this, just wanted a quick little story of how I ended up in this anthology. I read a little bit of horror, not much, not nearly as some of the other people at this bookstore, and I have written exactly one horror story. And it was sitting in a file somewhere when Lincoln Michael, one of the editors of this anthology and a writer I really respect for his opinions on the book industry and literature, tweeted a call for submissions. And as I said, this is for short stories, so there's a strict word count limit. And so I thought, yeah, I'll see what I've got. So I found the file and looked over the story that had been sitting there, and not only would I be able to cut the necessary words to get it to the submission requirements, that's exactly what the story needed to be good at all. And so I made the cuts, I submitted it, and I was accepted and get to be bound by two covers with some absolutely amazing writers. It's a wonderful collection, great small press. So if you're a fan of horror stories, scary stories in general, Tiny Nightmares is a great anthology for you and a great gift for the horror fan in your life. So I'm going to read my short story called The Barrow Wight. I think we could use some better mood lighting. Yeah, that's better. And actually, I think I need an appropriately dark and bloody beverage to get me through this. Oh, AB positive, one of my favorites. This is The Barrow Wight from Tiny Nightmares. The winter debilitated us. We thought it was a glove. The winter became subcutaneous. Blizzards buried parking meters, plows built roadside balustrades, schools closed. We exhausted the energizing joy of dramatic snowstorms by January. We're drinking more by February, catching up on classic movies. You expect a glove in a melting snow mound. 3 days later, we realized it was a hand. Authorities were called, hospitals contacted, missing persons reports cross-referenced. We reached out to people we hadn't heard from recently. The authorities were, we assumed, scientific and thorough. For a week, we saw hands instead of gloves, feet instead of boots. We saw another hand. The media invaded. We gave the ill-informed, poorly phrased, emotionally contradictory interviews expected from the people on the street. Got pretty good at them too, eventually, in jokes and everything. Another receding snow mound revealed a foot. After the second hand, we constantly imagined feet. Idle moments at work, when yawns closed our eyes, blinking away the colored shapes of too long stared at screens, we thought we were prepared. Maybe we would have been, if someone else had found it. Not the kind fifth grader who still believed the world is so people can be happy in it. What do they think about a fucking foot in a snowbound? We weren't prepared. Then, a 4-day problem with an idiom. Then, fuck it. The other foot dropped. The media returned, but their tone changed. Mocking derision replaced morbid curiosity, as if behind every question lurked a rhetorical, "Can you believe these people? Limbs in their snow mounds. Who's driving their plows, am I right?" We shared a nightmare of being chased through a dark tunnel. The tunnel narrowed until we crawled. It terminated. An evil approach. We pushed with all our might against the terminus. We broke through, flopping onto slushy ground to a chorus of screams. Bottles dropped. The shattered glass assembled into a surface that reflected a severed hand with a face in the palm. The use of applause radically increased. Our alcohol drinkers felt their desire for it diminish in direct proportion to the increase in their need for it. Parents couldn't tell their children to play outside. Horror movies were absented from sleepovers. We packed high school basketball games like never before and cheered with unprecedented passion. The team went 2-6. We watched even more TV. Next was a forearm. A dog found it. A good dog. The forearm was put in the morgue with the other limbs. Picture the visage of a freaked-out coroner. Spring increased the pace of revelation. The rest of an arm up to the shoulder was found the next day, and its partner that afternoon. A few people left. In public, we politely questioned their commitment. In private, we hated them as we hate elderly relatives lingering in nursing homes. The high school drama club met after school. At least, we think it was the drama club, because none of the other groups of students would have had this conversation, or maybe they would. Teenagers are weird. It wasn't even a conversation, just one kid talking. You know how you just kind of talk yourself into the outside? What are we doing? We're not afraid of this getting out, are we? That'd be stupid. Nobody got into a fight. Nobody drew a gun and accidentally shot someone else. Nobody had sex in the bathroom. Nobody even did any drugs. Somebody said they were looking up stuff on the internet because they were bored, and Dad was watching college basketball, and you do not change the channel when Dad is watching college basketball. So they learned that many scholars theorize that the idea of Barrow Wights originated with Mongolian herdsmen who believed powerful spirits guarded improperly buried bodies and tormented travelers, and the belief in these malicious spirits accompanied them as they swept into Europe, where the spirits were associated with trolls guarding cemeteries in Poland and Hungary, making their way into one unattributed German fairy tale in which the cruelty of a tyrannical prince congealed into a gremlin that haunted his grave, a version of which was adapted into an Arthurian legend, in which a burial wraith tried to trick Sir Lucan the butler into replacing the dead lord in a tomb. And once in France, there was only a channel between these monsters and England, which actually had burial mounds, or barrows. Barrow coming from the old German word for mountain. And in England, they developed a mischievousness that included using dead bodies and the parts thereof in pranks, which many scholars believe was an explanation for the occasional absences of bodies from graves. And it was from these folktales that Tolkien created the Barrow Wights, now so prevalent in fantasy and horror culture. Somehow, the term Barrow Wight manifested in everyone's minds. If we lost focus, it ended up in open documents and emails. Thighs and shins of 2 legs were found in cardinal directions. The genitals centered the leg compass. The torso had to be next. We could do an autopsy. We were thrilled. Autopsy is the highest expression of modern humanity. Another thing we learned. We held a dark carnival. We dressed as demons to frighten demons. Warty prosthetic noses, gnarled horns, hooves over hands, grizzled branches on our backs, gleeful in our horribleness. We made curseful noises to banish curses. Rucksacks of glass hurled against stop signs, plastic bags fed through snowblowers, TVs dropped from heights, vicious comfort in our cacophony. We pantomimed cruelty to diffuse cruelty, staged executions, harmless lashings, unspecified but unsettling devices. We replaced thrill with fake thrill. Whatever else we felt in the consideration of this image of ourselves, we defined as coincidental. The torso was in the sewers, in a glass case, perfectly preserved. We opened the case. The torso turned to mulch. The guy who worked at the garden center, nice enough really, but talked about fantasy sports too much, said it was organic cedar, but really, could he tell just by looking? It was just a fucking torso. It's fine. He wanted to contribute. We all want to contribute. Most of us don't know how, so we have kids. Hi, kids. We love you. The head should appear and end this. We discussed war heroes, uncles who died overseas. One Barrow remained. The sense of carnival returned, just the sense. We vigiled in shifts with snacks and flasks, just like ice fishing. We finally started talking about the Mound Man. We would look in his eyes, we would put him on the internet, we would solve a mystery. This ordeal would rebind what components of our community had drifted apart through capitalism's tectonics. We would contact the media. We would give interviews again. We would sell the movie rights and build a homeless shelter or a playground or a free clinic. Mound Man Day would be the official start of our spring, a celebration of our triumph. We would triumph. The Barrow melted. There was another hand. Well, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my story, The Barrow Wight from Tiny Nightmares. Read good books, support your local independent bookstore, and happy Halloween.